Hello friends, welcome to Apple Coder. Today we will look at how to create a collection view. So for that we will display few animal names in the collection view. So the first step would be to create a collection view cell. So we create a text cell which inherits from the UI collection view cell, and this has a bunch of properties. Like the most important one that we want here is the reuse identifier and the text view. So we are going to display a text in the collection view cells. So we are going to need a text view to display the text. So we create a text view, and then in the init method, we add the text view as a subview of the content view. So for any UI collection view cell, we should not add subviews directly to the collection view cell. We should always add it to the content view. And after that, we create the constraints for the text view. So we first turn off the auto resizing masks, and then we set the anchors. So we set the leading anchor, height, width, and the trailing anchors. And we match the text views anchors with that of the content views anchors, because we want the text view to stretch along with the borders of the content view. And then since we do not have any implementation for the coder, we just return a fatal error here. Now let's move on to the view controller. So as you see in the view controller, it inherits not only from the view controller, but it also implements a few other protocols which is required by the collection view. So it implements the data source, a delegate, and also the flow layout. So the collection view has few properties here. It first has a collection view itself, and then it also has a data array. So this is the array from which the collection view is going to read and display the data. So we will just append three elements to the collection view for now, to the data. So you're just adding lion, tiger, and elephant. So now we will go ahead and create a collection view flow layout. So the layout is required when you create a collection view programmatically. The init method of the collection view requires a frame and a collection view layout. For the frame, we will just set it to 0 for now, because we are going to specify constraints which will automatically determine the frame. So we will just specify the frame as 0 here, and then we'll pass in the layout. And then we will go ahead and register our text cell, because the collection view, when it dequeues, it needs to know it can dequeue only cells that have already registered. So we will go ahead and register the text cell and with the reuse identifier. And this is the reuse identifier that we created in the text cell itself. So after that, we also specify the data source and delegate for the collection view. We specify both of them to be self. And as we have seen earlier, the view controller implements both the data source and the delegate. And then we specify the bounds for the view controller's view, and then we also specify the background color, and we add the collection view as a subview of the view. The next step would be to set the constraints, and this would be very similar to that of the text view constraints that we set earlier. So we'll specify the or turn off the auto resizing masks, and then we will specify the anchors, and we will set the background color, and finally we will store the collection view in and the view controllers property, collection view property. So this is where our data source comes into the picture. So when the collection view, when it tries to lay out, it asks, hey, provide me a cell for this index path. And it will invoke this method automatically. And in that method, what we will do is we'll go ahead and dequeue the cell. The cell that we are going to dequeue here is our text cell. And as you remember, when we registered, when we created the collection view, we registered the text cell. So we are going to dequeue the text cell here. And we also specify the border for the cell so that it's visible on the screen for us to see where the borders lie for the collection view cell. And then we also set the text of the text view. and the text would come from the data. So it could be either lion, tiger, or elephant. And here for the index, we will just use the index path dot item. And for the number of sections, we'll just stick with one sections for now. And for the collection view, how many number of items are there in the collection view, we'll just set that as the data dot count. So in this case, it's going to be 3 elements in the collection view. So now let's go ahead and run the app. As you can see here, it has created 3 cells, lion, tiger, and elephant, and we can also see the borders of the cells here. But one thing to note here is that the collection view has automatically determined the size of the collection view cells. Since we have not explicitly provided any size, it tries to do a best estimate and then tries to set that cell size. And collection view provides options for us to configure the cell width and height. Let's look into how. So the collection view provides a flow layout delegate. So this flow layout delegate will give us the options to specify the height and width. And one thing to note here is that the collection view delegate should be implementing this view delegate flow layout. If you are having a different class which is a delegate for the collection view, then that class should be implementing the flow layout delegate. Since we are having our delegate as a view controller itself, we will make the view controller conform to the delegate flow layout. And now let's go ahead and uncomment this piece of code. So this piece of code will get executed when the collection view needs to determine a size for the collection view item. So at the point of time, it will invoke this method. And then what we will do here is we will just return the collection view's width, and then we'll specify a height as 30. So now let's go ahead and run the app and see how it looks. Ta-da! Now you can see that the width has expanded all the way to the screen edges. Now let's rotate the screen and see how it looks like. As we rotate, the width seems to still be the same. It has not expanded all the way to the screen. We'll fix that in a minute. Okay, so now in the portrait mode, the width seems to be expanded all the way to the screen, but not in the landscape mode. So now let's go ahead and fix that. So whenever the rotation happens, the view will transition to size, gets invoked on the view controller. And in here, what we will do is we'll go ahead and invalidate the layout of the collection view. When we invalidate the layout, it will relay out the cells, and then it will try to determine the width of the cells again. And at the time, it will get the entire width of the collection view, which will match the entire screen width. And since we did not invalidate the layout on rotations, the collection view did not relay out the cells. Now let's go ahead and run the app. Okay, now let's rotate. So now we can see that the width of the collection view cell expands all the way to the width of the collection view. So this explains the collection view and how to configure a collection view cell and how to handle the layout invalidation during the rotations, and also how to specify a fixed width and height for the collection view cells. In the next video, we will look at how to have a dynamic sizing so that the cell can automatically expand based on the content of the cell. So we will look into that next video. See you until then. எண்டு கொடுத்தா போதுமா? ரெக்கார்ட் ஸ்டாப் பண்ணுமா? இல்ல. இது இங்க பண்ணு.